The first Monday of senior year at Northwood High was always a fashion parade. Girls in designer jeans, boys in fresh sneakers, everyone vying for that subtle, unspoken declaration of summer success. So when a new girl walked into the bustling hallway, clad head to toe in military-grade camouflage, the reaction was immediate and predictable. Laughter. Not outright guffaws. Not at first. More like a ripple of suppressed giggles, snorts, and pointed whispers. "Is that a Halloween costume?" someone muttered. "Did she get lost on the way to basic training?" Another quipped, loud enough to be heard. The girl, whose name tag on her oversized olive-drab backpack read Sergeant A. Miller, seemed oblivious. Or perhaps, utterly unconcerned. Her boots, thick and scuffed, thumped a steady rhythm on the polished linoleum floor. Her hair, a practical, no-nonsense bun, was tucked under a faded green cap. Her eyes, the only part of her face truly visible, were an unnervingly clear shade of gray. Scanning the chaotic hallway with an almost professional detachment, she moved with an economical grace, weaving through clusters of students, her gait purposeful. She wasn't trying to fit in. She wasn't even acknowledging the stares. It was as if she were on a mission, and Northwood High was merely a temporary, mildly inconvenient objective. Sarah Jenkins, the self-appointed Queen Bee of Northwood, watched from her locker, a smirk playing on her perfectly glossed lips. "Oh my God, look at her," she whispered to her entourage, a trio of equally well-dressed girls. "Does she think this is some kind of army surplus store? How embarrassing." Across the hall, Mark Peterson, the star quarterback, nudged his best friend, Kevin. "Dude, check out G.I. Jane. Someone needs to tell her school isn't a paintball arena." The whispers and snickers followed her through homeroom, through first period English, where she sat in the back, silent and attentive, and through second period history, where she answered a complex question about the Peloponnesian War with a concise, insightful analysis that stunned even Mr. Harrison. Still, the camo remained the dominant narrative. Lunch was the worst. The cafeteria, a cacophony of adolescent chatter, fell into a hush as she entered, tray in hand. She found an empty table in the corner, away from the main hubbub, and ate her surprisingly healthy-looking meal with the same focused intensity she applied to everything else. Sarah and her friends, seated at a central table, made exaggerated gestures, pretending to salute or march, eliciting more giggles. "Seriously, what's her deal?" Kevin asked Mark, who was busy dissecting his burger. "Probably some military brat whose parents just moved here." Mark shrugged. She realized how ridiculous she looks eventually, but she didn't. Day after day, Sergeant A. Miller, or just Miller as she was quickly dubbed by the faculty, arrived in her immaculate, yet undeniably utilitarian, camouflage. Sometimes it was a different pattern, a desert tan or a darker woodland green. But always the same practical cut, the same heavy boots, the same air of quiet competence. The initial amusement began to curdle into annoyance for some, particularly Sarah. Miller's unwavering confidence, her refusal to be embarrassed, was an affront to Sarah's carefully constructed social order. It was as if Miller existed in a different dimension, one where Northwood's petty hierarchies simply didn't apply. "She's so weird," Sarah complained one afternoon, scrolling through her phone. "Doesn't she have any normal clothes, or friends?" Miller, meanwhile, excelled academically. She aced tests, offered surprisingly mature insights in class discussions, and even helped struggling students with complex math problems, her explanations clear and patient. Yet, she remained an enigma, a lone wolf in a sea of teenagers desperate for connection. One Tuesday, during third period chemistry, a sudden, piercing siren ripped through the school. It wasn't the fire alarm, nor the tornado drill. This was a different sound, sharper, more urgent, echoing through the hallways. A voice, tinny and panicked, blared over the intercom. "Attention, Northwood High. This is not a drill. We have an intruder on campus. All students and staff, initiate lockdown procedures immediately. Repeat, this is not a drill." Chaos erupted. Students screamed. Teachers barked orders. Desks scraped against floors as everyone scrambled for cover. The lights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows. Fear, raw and primal, filled the air. In Mrs. Davison's chemistry class, students huddled under tables, their faces pale. Mrs. Davison, usually unflappable, was visibly trembling as she fumbled with the classroom door lock. Amidst the panic, one figure remained calm. Sergeant Miller. While others ducked, she stood up, her gray eyes scanning the room, assessing the situation. "Mrs. Davison, the lock is faulty," she stated, her voice cutting through the rising hysteria. "It won't hold. We need to barricade the door." Mrs. Davison, startled, looked at her. "Miller, what are you talking about? The intruder. They'll try the main entrance first." "We need to buy time," Miller said, already pulling a heavy lab table towards the door. "Mark, Kevin, help me with this. Sarah, you and your friends, move the periodic table chart against the window. It's thick, might deflect something." For a moment, they hesitated, still caught in the paralysis of fear. But Miller's voice carried an undeniable authority, a command that bypassed their fear and tapped into something deeper. Mark and Kevin, accustomed to following orders on the football field, instinctively moved to help her. Sarah, surprisingly, found herself directing her friends to the window. Her usual disdain replaced by a flicker of grudging respect. They worked quickly, pushing tables, chairs, anything heavy, against the door. Miller moved with a practiced efficiency, her movements precise and strong. She wasn't just a girl in Camo. She was a leader, calm in the face of crisis. A loud crash echoed from the hallway, followed by shouts. The sounds were closer now, too close. "They're trying the main entrance," Miller whispered, her eyes narrowed. "Everyone, stay low. Stay silent. Don't make a sound." Minutes stretched into an eternity. The air was thick with tension, every breath held, every heartbeat a drum solo in the silence. Then, a new sound, faint at first, but growing rapidly louder. A rhythmic thumping, a powerful, unmistakable worry. Thump, thump, thump. It grew louder, vibrating through the school, rattling the windows. It was the sound of a helicopter, not a small civilian chopper, but something massive, powerful. Suddenly, a shadow fell over the classroom, a monstrous, rotating silhouette against the gray sky. The thumping intensified, shaking the very foundations of the school. "What is that?" Someone whimpered. Miller, who had been peering through a tiny gap in the barricade, straightened up. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. "Reinforcements," she murmured. Just then, the intercom crackled to life again. The voice, now clear, authoritative, and distinctly military. "This is Alpha Team, requesting immediate landing zone on the Northwood High football field. Repeat, requesting immediate landing zone on the Northwood High football field. All clear for extraction, over." The words hung in the air, incomprehensible yet undeniably real. A Black Hawk, a military helicopter, landing on their football field. Mrs. Davison stared at Miller, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Miller, what is going on?" Miller walked to the window, pushed aside the chart, and looked out. Tore. And there it was. A massive, black helicopter. Its rotors churning the air into a violent vortex. Descending slowly onto the perfectly manicured green of the football field. Armed figures, clad in tactical gear, rappelled down ropes even before the skids touched the ground. "It's over," Miller said, her voice calm. "They've secured the perimeter." The lockdown was lifted. Confused, terrified students slowly emerged from their hiding places. The news spread like wildfire. A Black Hawk helicopter had landed on the football field. As the students poured out of the school, blinking in the sudden sunlight, they saw it. The Black Hawk, a beast of metal and power, dominating the landscape. And, standing beside it, surrounded by a team of heavily armed soldiers, was Sergeant A. Miller. She wasn't just a girl in camo anymore. She was with them. She was one of them. A tall, stern-faced man in a full military uniform, clearly an officer, approached her. "Sergeant Miller," he said, his voice crisp. "Report, sir. Perimeter secured. Intruder apprehended. No casualties among civilian personnel. All protocols followed." Miller saluted, her movements sharp and precise. The officer nodded, his gaze sweeping over the bewildered students. "Good work, Sergeant. Your intel was spot on. We'll take it from here." Mark and Kevin, who had been among the first to emerge, watched in stunned silence. Sarah and her friends stood frozen, their mouths agape. The laughter, the snickers, the dismissive whispers, they all evaporated into the crisp autumn air, replaced by a chilling realization. Sergeant A. Miller wasn't playing dress-up. She wasn't weird. She was a soldier. A highly trained, incredibly competent soldier who had been operating undercover, gathering intelligence. And, it now seemed, protecting them all. The intruder, it was later revealed, was a former student, disgruntled and armed, intent on causing harm. Miller, embedded in the school as part of a highly classified counterterrorism initiative, had been monitoring his online activity for weeks. Her unconventional attire was a part of her cover. A deliberate attempt to appear unassuming, to blend in plain sight while constantly observing, analyzing, and preparing. The day ended in a blur of police cars, news vans, and bewildered parents. But for the students of Northwood High, the image of the Black Hawk on their football field, and Sergeant A. Miller standing beside it, would forever be etched in their minds. The next day, Miller wasn't at school. Her locker was empty. Her seat in every class was vacant. She was gone as quickly and mysteriously as she had arrived. But her impact remained. The laughter had died. The judgment had vanished. In its place was a profound, unsettling respect. The students who had once mocked her now spoke of her in hushed, reverent tones. They understood now that appearances could be deceiving, that true strength often lay hidden beneath an unassuming exterior. Mark Peterson, the star quarterback, found himself looking at the world differently. The petty dramas of high school seemed trivial in comparison to the silent, unseen battles that people like Miller fought every day. He thought about her calm demeanor, her quick thinking, her unwavering courage. He realized that true heroism wasn't about touchdowns or popularity. It was about protecting others, even when they didn't know they needed protecting. Sarah Jenkins, too, was changed. The girl who had once obsessed over designer labels and social status now found herself contemplating the meaning of resilience, of purpose. She remembered Miller's steady gaze, her quiet authority, and felt a pang of shame for her own superficiality. She started volunteering at a local community center, seeking a different kind of fulfillment, a different kind of purpose. The incident at Northwood High became a legend, whispered in the hallways, exaggerated with each retelling. But at its core was the truth of Sergeant A. Miller, the girl in camo who had been laughed at, only to reveal a depth of character and a hidden life that humbled them all. She was a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary people walk among us, unnoticed, until the moment they are called to action, and the world is forced to stand frozen in awe. Years passed. The students of Northwood High graduated, went to college, started careers, and built lives. The memory of the Black Hawk and the girl in camo faded for some, becoming a distant, almost mythical tale. But for others, the lesson lingered, a quiet undercurrent shaping their choices, reminding them of the unseen complexities of the world. One crisp autumn evening, a decade after the Northwood incident, Mark Peterson, now a successful architect, was watching the news. A special report was airing, detailing a complex international operation to dismantle a sophisticated cyber-terrorist network. The screen showed grainy footage of a highly trained tactical unit breaching a fortified compound. Then, a fleeting glimpse. A figure, moving with precise, almost balletic grace, leading the charge. Her face was obscured by night vision goggles, but the practical bun, the lean, powerful build, the unmistakable air of quiet competence. Mark leaned closer to the screen, his heart thumping. He knew that gait. He knew that presence. The news anchor continued. Sources confirmed the success of Operation Nightingale, largely due to the exceptional leadership of a highly decorated, anonymous operative known only as Sparrowhawk. This individual has unparalleled expertise in both cyber warfare and tactical execution proved instrumental in preventing a global catastrophe. Mark smiled, a knowing, almost reverent smile. Sparrowhawk, he murmured. He knew her real name, Sergeant A. Miller. He thought back to that Monday morning, the laughter, the dismissive whispers, how little they had known, how utterly blind they had been. The girl in camo, the one they had mocked, had not only saved their high school, but was now, quietly, anonymously, saving the world. He wondered where she was now, what battles she was fighting, what hidden threats she was neutralizing. He knew she wouldn't be seeking accolades or recognition. That wasn't her way. Her reward was the quiet knowledge that she had done her part, that she had protected the innocent, that she had made the world a safer place, one precise, purposeful action at a time. And as he watched the news, a profound sense of gratitude washed over him. Gratitude for the silent guardians, for the ones who walked among us, unassuming and underestimated, until the moment the world needed them most. The ones who, with a single, decisive action, could freeze the laughter on the faces of the ignorant and replace it with a chilling, undeniable awe. The world was a dangerous place, filled with unseen threats. But it was also a world protected by people like Sergeant Miller, the girl in camo, the silent sentinel, the one who had taught them all a lesson they would never forget. And somewhere, out there, she was still fighting, still protecting, still making the impossible seem effortless, her quiet strength a beacon in the darkness. Her legacy at Northwood High wasn't just the story of the Black Hawk. It was the subtle shift in perspective, the newfound appreciation for substance over superficiality, the understanding that true power often resides in the most unexpected places. The students who had once laughed now looked deeper, listened more intently, and judged less quickly. They had learned that the most ordinary exteriors could conceal the most extraordinary individuals, and that sometimes the greatest heroes were the ones who never sought the spotlight, preferring to operate in the shadows, their only witness the quiet hum of a Black Hawk in the sky. The memory of the Black Hawk landing on the football field served as a constant, silent reminder. It was a testament to the fact that heroism isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes, it's just a girl in camo, walking into school, ready for whatever the day might bring, even if no one else has any idea what that might be. And it was a lesson that resonated through the years, a quiet revolution in the hearts, and minds of those who had witnessed it, forever changing their understanding of courage, strength, and the true meaning of being prepared.